later.
Yeah, well, you'll hear about
what
that.
What did you say when it happened, though?
What I say when it happened?
Yeah, you didn't.
I
do
was
your
like,
signature?
which signature?
It's a
You mean
Yes, we got
no,
on the
I
audio.
didn't, because at the time I didn't think it was a fumble, because I was under the impression that the ground could not cause a fumble. But apparently there are situations now where the ground can cause a fumble.
We call it delay of fumble penalty on Mike for not proclaiming the actual fumble that took place during the actual.
No, but I'm not going to call it out if I don't think it's a thing.
Hey, Tommy Gutlet, how you doing? What's going on, everyone? This is Cinco Squad. My name is Jonathan Sawyer. With me are my brothers TreyDay, Grandpa Jay, and then we got Mikey Cut Clips, not Mikey Cutlets.
Forget about it.
Cut Clips.
Yeah,
because he's the cut clip master. What's going on, fellas? Happy 1 week show until Christmas. So
yes,
I hope you guys are doing well. How was your sports weekend last weekend?
it was good. The Bucks won.
The Giants won.
Liverpool.
My Tommy DeVito was out there. You know, my cousin Tommy.
Cousin Tommy.
My cousin Big Tommy.
Everyone in the Syracuse chats has been like, where the fuck was this at Syracuse? Like, what the hell?
I would imagine the Illinois chats are roughly the same.
Yeah.
I think I read somewhere that it was like Brian Dable's scared of pulling Tommy because of the 70 million Italian Americans.
Yep. No, he's started by force.
I love his post game conference with that. He's just like, what'd you say to Tommy? And he's like, I just told him, you'll let that son bitch go. I was like, oh, nice. I love that mentality.
Oh, 100%.
That's your quarterback of the future, Mike. That's your Brock Purdy.
Looks like it.
Actually, I think the other point was more like he's saving your dream boy's backside right now, because it means they might not go fishing for a quarterback early in the first round because they feel like they have a solid backup. So it might actually save Danny Dimes' job.
Yeah, I mean, like Trey always alludes to, and we always allude to, it's not a bad thing to have a good backup. It's never a bad thing to have someone in there that you know if someone gets hurt, and especially as we keep extending games, you're gonna have that opportunity. And I mean, he's been playing well. It's not like he's been lighting the scoreboard up, that too, right? He's been doing exactly what you expect out of your backup. Yeah. Manage the game. Don't turn the ball over. Give it to your skill position. Let go. Mm-hmm. But Mike, I got to ask you something. Are you guys going to address the monster that's in MetLife? What in the world happened to Saquon? He had a 30-yard gap between people, and he just turf monster gotcha.
Well, yeah. So,
oh shit,
he got hit by. So, okay, what happened on that play was he got hit by a Packers player, started stumbling and falling over. He regained his balance, and then yes, the turf monster that previously got Daniel Jones 2 years ago after the 80-yard run was like, another giant that wants to get on a good run? Nope.
Oh, a giant's up in the open field?
Yeah, exactly.
And then he fumbles.
Yeah. Well, I have some things to say about that. But
yeah, we'll hear about that later.
Yeah, you'll hear about that.
What did you say when it happened, though?
What I say when it happened?
Yeah, you didn't.
I was like, signature? No, at the time. Which signature?
It's a fumble.
You mean
yes,
no, I didn't, because at the time I didn't think it was a fumble, because I was under the impression that the ground could not cause a fumble. But apparently there are situations now where the ground can cause a fumble.
We call it delay of fumble penalty on Mike for not proclaiming the actual fumble that took place during the actual.
No, but I'm not going to call it out if I don't think it's a thing.
Well, now you're not the only team that had the yips this weekend, because
I know.
Apparently they just greased the ball, and all of our skill players decided to like, there we go. And that's the biggest thing in that game, is I kept saying to people is like, what positive do I have to take out of that game? When they did fumble, it was inside the red zone. Now that's bad, right? But that means they were moving the ball down the field.
Before that.
And that's the one negative, but that's a positive in my mind. And they held them to 9 points in the second half. But
Devontae and AJ also probably dropped at least 2 or 3 each.
Well, AJ on the fumble after that, he dropped something that he never drops, right?
Mm-hmm.
Devontae dropped, but Devontae, I'll give him a little bit of
Devontae's more like diving catches. So.
But no, he's been getting his ass kicked, and Jalen's been setting him up for ass kickings, and he's the toughest receiver in the league, hands down. He takes the most brutal hits. He's the toughest receiver in the league. 100%.
I would say Debo is.
I would say Debo.
Yeah.
Nah, fuck Debo.
I would say Jalen Hyatt.
You would say fuck Debo, but Debo's running that shit up the fucking middle on buddies.
Can they take me Hyatt?
No, you can't.
No, exactly.
No,
they
you
can't.
can't.
So,
All right, crazy golf heads. ShankIt Golf. That's the place for all your gear. Cinco Squad, you got a 15% discount. That's 15%. I know you guys need some new gear coming up. You know there's always a reason to swag your bag out more. So head over to ShankIt Golf and get yourself something so you look fly in the golf course this winter. I mean, that's basically if you live in Florida. Or you got to fly down to Florida to play golf. So ShankIt Golf, get you all swagged out. Cinco Squad, 50% discount. That's 15% discount. Cinco Squad.
Listen up. It's never too early to get fresh. We got a promotion here. It's done with a group called FansIdea. They make dope jerseys, just like this one you see right here. You can customize the jerseys, get your own type of logo, maybe do something for the family, for a family reunion. Just get fresh. They do jerseys, hats, T-shirts, shirts, whatever you need, they got it. That's where you need to go. But use that Cinco Squad link, Cinco Squad 10. It'll get you 10% off. So go ahead, click that link.
All right, everyone. And as you guys know, this past weekend, I attended the Orange Bowl Classic, which was amazing. Sat behind some NBA scouts, or sat in front of some NBA scouts. Really got to, see how the players interact, how, it's just a really cool environment. Mike and I have been around media credentials. Jamie's been behind the scenes, same with Trey. It's a real cool environment to see behind the scenes what the players do before the games, those type of things, how the whole thing kind of comes together. I thought that was really awesome. And thank you to the Orange Bowl for allowing us to be there. We got a lot of great coverage and I got a lot of good videos. Tune into our socials. I'm going to be dropping more interviews from there. One thing I noticed is that Leonard Hamilton's the only coach with his own private detail.
Well, he's been around for a hot minute, so he's earned it.
He was not happy about the transfer portal too, which we'll get into later, but the transfer portal. But let's roll it in. Let's get Mikey on the screen. Mikey, take us away with what's on your mind.
Okay, so I've been hanging on to this one for a little while, and being that we've had some big moves in the world of baseball recently, I thought it was a good time to take this one out of stasis. Yeah, out of my storage. So a little bit of a Yankee fact for you. Don Mattingly, Donnie Baseball, one of a fan favorite in Yankee history, set the single-season Grand Slam record with 6 Grand Slams in 1987. Very impressive. Like it was. I've seen highlights of it. It was amazing. Thing is, those are the only 6 Grand Slams he ever hit. In his
surprising.
Yeah, in his, I think, 12 to 13 year minimum career, he never hit another Grand Slam before that or after.
And the reason why that's surprising because he's a left-handed hitter in Yankee Stadium,
right.
Short porch with the bases loaded. But I mean, he was never really a long ball hitter. He was always just a contact hitter.
No, but being that if you get 6 in a year, you'd think he'd get another one somewhere else the next decade.
What I didn't know is he wasn't the captain. He was never a captain.
No, but he acted like it, but he was never officially named captain because George was very hesitant to ever name a captain after Munson until he met Jeter.
Mm-hmm.
And he made Jeter prove it. Jeter wasn't officially captain until I think like the mid 2000s.
Yeah, like 2001.
Yeah, so Jeter played for almost a decade before he was named captain. So yeah, it was. But yeah, Donnie Baseball, single season Grand Slam leader, then not anywhere near the career, I don't believe.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yes, but you know what else is incredible? Jamie's locks of the week. Jay, take it away.
Yes, sir. Bring it in. So, guys, last week it was looking very promising. even though that first half of that Pacers game looked as if they were gonna stall out. Wasn't too sure what Milwaukee was doing in the first half. Way under their scoring rate, but boom, here comes 73 points in the third quarter. I'm like, we're on our way. And then they go 2 for 18 in the fourth quarter from downtown, and the over doesn't hit. However, thank you very much, Marquette, and thank you very much, Los Angeles Rams, for covering. So 2 for 1 last week, and really just a blunder in the special teams. You kind of hate seeing it, blocking the back, not called, and the Ravens go ahead and win that game on special teams, and the Rams probably deserve to win it. But, hey, it was a win, so hopefully you guys bet the weekend stuff. You didn't bet Friday night because you're like, this guy's crazy for calling the over at 255, but it would have hit if the Bucks and Pacers were hitting from downtown. So we move on to this week, and we're putting 3 locks out there that you guys have to get your hands on. You know how I like to do it. I give you a Friday and a Saturday and a Sunday, so every day you can call yourself a winner. So Friday night, Spurs right now on a 17-game losing streak. It will be 18 after the Lakers beat them tonight. However, I'm saying that the 18-game skid ends on Friday night. The Lakers have played way too much basketball in the last 2 weeks at a very high level. I think Pop rips them to shreds tonight. And somehow, some way, the Spurs find a way to beat the Los Angeles Lakers on Friday night in San Antonio. Very weird back-to-back. Lakers staying in San Antonio over the next 3 days. They're going to host them again on Friday night. So take the Spurs to beat the Lakers and end this 18-game skid because something has to give. On Saturday, nighttime cap. We got the NFL starting on Saturdays because college football is no longer on Saturday. And who's rolling into Detroit? It is the Denver Broncos. And no team is playing, or I say some teams are, but I dare to challenge that Denver might be playing the best football in the entire National Football League on both sides of the ball. What has Detroit done? Detroit has stunk up the spot for the last 3 weeks. I do not think they cover 4, so I'm taking Denver +4 on the road at Detroit. I actually think Detroit squeaks this one out by 1. Going to be a really thrilling finish to this game. And then, I got to go across to the pond because it is the Northwest Derby, and they say the cardinal sin is to bet on your own team, but fuck that. Liverpool over Man United because fuck Man U. We don't like Man U around here. Nobody likes Man U. So take my boys Liverpool. We finally jumped up to the top of the table. They're playing great football right now, and Man U is not. It is in Liverpool, and I expect Liverpool to win this one by at least 2 goals and pose a shutout. Man U always finds a way to play us well, but we are going to make sure that we do not give up any points this weekend. Liverpool all the way, baby. So 3 locks of the week. You got to take them. Here's your lock on Friday night. San Antonio Spurs with the big upset over the Los Angeles Lakers. Take San Antonio to win outright. Then on Saturday night, NFL football's back on Saturday. And I love the Denver Broncos at +4 in Detroit because I don't know what Detroit is doing right now, but it does not look like the kind of football that's going to win you a game in the playoffs, far less a regular season game. And then to cap it off on Sunday morning at 11:30, my Liverpool Football Club team in first place will hold on to that first place spot, and they will take care of business against Manchester United in the Northwest Derby. And that, ladies and gentlemen, are your locks of the week.
So one of y'all going to punch this motherfucker in the mouth for what? I'm getting tired of Draymond Green. Y'all out here having this man go out here and play fake tough guy. We already seen what happened in the past. Brad Beal hemmed him up. Do you know what happened when Brad Beal hemmed him up? Go back and watch the video. The coach is kind of holding Draymond back, but Draymond's not really trying to rest in there. Draymond really didn't want that smoke. My man's out here kicking people in the balls one week, out here admittedly saying, I'm flailing, trying to get a call while he's out here hitting Nurkic. This is what he does. And especially as he's starting to get older and losing and stuff, what he got right now is playing the fake tough guy. And I'm not saying that Draymond isn't tough at all, but what I'm saying is this is one of those rare moments where you'll hear me say it, but we need that 80s basketball where somebody just goes in and says, fuck this shit, I'm punching this dude in the mouth, and I'm going to call this fucking bluff on him and see if he actually does something. Because the truth is, most likely he's not going to do something. He's going to hurt his team if he does something. And this is why somebody has to call his bluff. Right now, he's suspended indefinitely, and that is what it is. As the Warriors are starting to implode, I really do think Draymond knows how to control himself, but he knows what he can get away with and who he can get away with it. So like I said, somebody punch that motherfucker in the mouth.
I think I was the champion last week, by the way, in our picks. I had to celebrate that in some way.
Yep.
I'm bottom of the league in our fantasy, bottom of the league here, like in our Cinco Squad championship. I picked the Lakers against the Pacers. So congratulations, Trey, on your inaugural championship ring.
You gotta start jumping in there. I gotta give you props because I didn't give you enough props, and I should have done that in my rant of the week. So yeah, big congrats. You gotta start jumping in on me and give me some of your advice.
Yeah, occasionally.
and take the opposite. Well, speaking about stupid contracts, Shohei Ohtani gets a $700 million 10-year contract for the LA Dodgers. Unbelievable. I can't believe that dude is going to be raking it in for a while. Brings up our first topic of the week, which is are players really worth their contract? Like, are some players really worth their contract? We see all these like longevity contracts, 6-7 years, especially with NFL players, NBA players having long. Well, NBA players, I think, are shorter, but are players really worth their contract? Grandpa Jay's got a look on his face. What do you think?
And this is such a tiered question in terms of how you look at it, right? Because you kind of have to look at the impact that player may have had over the years on the sport and whether or not they have a global impact. So I got 3 tiers for this. I think that every ridiculously exorbitant contract in soccer, as you guys like to say here, is kind of worth what it's worth. So if we really look at a contract value, we have to look at it from 3 standpoints. That's why I say it's 3 tier. You look at the total of the contract, you look at the average the player is supposed to make per year, and then you look at the average they're supposed to make per game. So the reason why I said that, the stalwarts who are really standing out now in the name of the game, the top 5 right now in sports are Shohei Ohtani with his giant $700 million contract. Then Lionel Messi signed his $674 million contract a couple of years ago in Barcelona. He was on top until Shohei did this, so that was the biggest one ever. Then we got Cristiano Ronaldo signing a $536 million deal. That's only 2.5 years. Patty Mahomes at his $450, and then Kareem Benzema on a 2-year, $436 million contract, which amounts to $7.1 million per game. So are those guys worth it? Well, they're all pretty much at the top of their sport, doing everything they can, not just to make their clubs win, but their countries compete in international games to win World Cups and really at the pinnacle of their sport. So you're saying, do they deserve that kind of money? Well, yeah, because they're the biggest names in their respective games. Yeah. But as we search down the list, you kind of start to see that there are some reaches that just make no sense. And maybe they had one lucky season that made a GM or an owner believe that, hey, this guy can give us everything we want. I think you guys might know a name I'm going to call out here, and they play for the same team, Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis Jr. Do they deserve to be paid $350 million and make somewhere upwards of about $31 million a year for Manny and $24 for Fernando Tatis? Absolutely not. And take it over to the boxing ring, right? As some in Trey might know, did you guys know that Canelo Alvarez is pretty much on a $365 million contract? He's only fighting, that's about 12 years. He's fighting one big fight a year. Mathematically, what does that mean? This guy is clocking in at a ridiculous $73 million per fight. I mean, how could one person be worth that much? I don't know what you bring to the table to say we're going to give you $33 million for one given fight. So this kind of like, I got to look at it both ways. Is it your value per game, your value per year or per fight or whatever you're doing, and your overall contract? Well, I think some of the big hitters are definitely worth that big hitting contract. I don't think some people are worth their yearly value in terms of what they bring to the actual sport. Just to kind of blow you guys' mind, I said, of course, he's the one making the most annually per event, where he's at $33 million per event. We got Ronaldo, Benzema at $7.1 million per match that they play, which is kind of ridiculous. And believe it or not, the most paid American football player per game is my guy, Joe Cool, at $3.2 million. And I got to say my guy is 100% worth it because Joe Cool's the ticket, baby. So you got to look at it 3 tiers is the way I see it. And most guys that you go down the list are going to be totally overvalued. I just think owners has gone absolutely crazy right now. The dollar value is absolutely nuts. I think TV contracts are probably making them feel like just throw that money out there because they're going to pay us more year after year. Trey,
go ahead, Trey.
Yeah, that's why they're worth it, because at the end of the day, the owners can afford to do this. At the end of the day, I've never been in the business of let's stop these billionaires and save them money. If these billionaires got like that, why shouldn't the regular people be able to make it? I'm doing the fucking work. You're just seeing your ass when they're cutting the check. Why shouldn't? How many times we sit here and we go to our own personal jobs and be like, damn, I'm busting my ass. Meanwhile, some dude at the top is sitting there, collecting all the money and not doing any work. I'm doing the work. Why don't I deserve this? I'm the reason you're selling jerseys. I'm the reason you got these ridiculous TV contracts. I'm the reason why you're filling this stadium. I'm the reason why you are making money. So you damn right. Why shouldn't Ohtani get $700 million? Shit, as far as I'm concerned, get a motherfucker $1 billion because they have to print money at the Guggenheimer Group out there in LA right now. So why not? If you're LeBron, the value LeBron brought to the city of Cleveland when he was in Cleveland was ridiculous. When he left, the economy started to die. When he came back, downtown started booming. They went out there and the flats started looking like crazy nice. Casinos started getting built and money started going. More people were working. Streets started getting paid. All types of things started happening. So, yeah, some of these people, don't get me wrong, for every time there's a Manny Machado or somebody that was making too much where it's like, okay, he's not earning the contract. But if somebody's going to pay the guy, why not? Because people are getting paid every day in America and around the world who aren't really worth what they're actually making. So everybody always goes to it's the athletes and they're just throwing the football. Okay, and what makes you CEO, boss who just occasionally shows up to work, goes out to golf, worth more than dudes actually working on the assembly line at Ford or Chrysler or one of these places? Mm-hmm. You're not doing shit. Like, half you motherfuckers are rich in this country, and I say it to some of you probably watching the video. Some of y'all rich because your fucking daddy made you rich. You didn't do shit. Most of these athletes, I will say, had to go out here and get it. Like, you get some occasionally, maybe you get in but you only get so far of your father's name. That's why we hear about it ain't these Hall of Fame combinations of father, son, or mother, daughter, and things like that. Eventually, you got to go get it. So, yeah, you damn right. Mike, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think it does depend on how you want to look at it. For my initial thought is that nobody's really worth it, but that's not because of it's not their fault. And obviously, like, if someone's willing to pay them this much money, more power to them. Like, go get that money. Like, you've earned the right to be able to ask for money, and the market values are now such that these are the prices. But it's not that they don't put the work in and they don't work hard and that they aren't the best in their sports. It's simply that it's hard for anyone at any skill level to live up to where the market values are for a lot of these contracts. And it's that's hard to quantify what these are worth. Shohei Ohtani is not going to be worth $700 million because it's hard to be worth $700 million. It's hard to bring $700 million worth of value to a franchise.
Mike, I have a quick question. So since we're talking about Soy, what okay, we got 10 years, right?
Yep.
20 really, but
20 technically by when he's getting paid.
But so what exactly would he have to do to, like, what would his stats, World Series, whatever, what would it have to equal for you at the end be like, you know what, that dude actually
that was worth it?
Yeah, what would it be?
Well, okay, so I'm gonna taking into account, so he'll be 39 when the actual contract, it's gonna involve that, yes. So call it the first 10 years is when he's gonna play, even though he's playing into his 40s. But let's just say he's done after 39. He's done after that 10th year. I mean, offhand, I would say they have to win at least 4.
4 rings, okay.
4 rings, and he's got to be NL MVP at least 3 or 4 times.
Okay.
I disagree with the NL MVP. I don't even think he needs to be MVP. I just think they need to contend for a World Series. They have to go. They have to go to the World Series, right? Not once, right? If you go to once, it's a complete failure.
Right.
At this point, you're paying him, right? So my point on this whole thing is there's 2 parts of it. There's the business side, and then there's the playing side. No player's worth their contract on the playing side. Just unrealistic. At age 40, even though the Japanese baseball players have proven that as they get older, they stay consistent, he's not going to be pitching and hitting at the same time. They already said that he's probably got another 5 years of pitching in him, and then he's going to go straight to hitting all the time. Right. So he's not going to even be worth the pitching because that's why you got him for that much. But what he will bring is exactly what Trey and Grandpa Jay said, is he's going to bring all the jersey sales, all the ticket. I guarantee you can't buy a Dodger season ticket at this point. You're on a wait list for 10 years probably at this point.
Yeah.
And if they sign Yamamoto, forget it.
Right.
So a lot of these guys, for baseball players, it's all about, like for instance, they were talking about this last year for Aaron Judge when he was breaking the record. In one weekend, Aaron Judge sold almost $300 million worth of merchandise, tickets, everything in that sense for the Yankees. That's his contract. You know what I mean? That's his contract for the Yankees.
Mm-hmm.
So he made they made their ROI back on their investment before signing the contract.
Mm-hmm.
So realistically, a lot of these guys will make the money back. A lot of these guys will make the $700 million back. That's why they're restructured and they can afford it, like you said. But is any player really worth it towards the end of your contract? That's why I said NBA is kind of different now. NBA is kind of restructured where now it's more on the player side. The player, I think the NBA is one of the only organizations now where it's player run. It may be owner run, but it's more player run at this point because the players dictate how much they're going to get. And right now, there's a lot of guys like PJ Tucker I saw was making, $20 million a year to not fucking play?
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's not worth that. But he is on the scale of what the NBA is at now.
With the market.
LeBron should be the first $100 million player. There's going to be a $100 million a year player for the NBA at some point. At some point.
You think the NBA
the way it keeps going up and going up?
Yeah, it's actually really soon, actually.
It'll be soon.
Because they're already on pace there's a couple people going to be making about 65, like just based on inflation right now, currently on contracts right now. I think Dame's is going to end somewhere.
Giannis is the only one now. Giannis is at 62.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But it's only going
right?
up. Yeah, but we keep going up. So
he's at 60. You know who's right behind him where you have a case to say it's Jaylen Brown at 60.7, and then it's Devin Booker and Karl Anthony Towns at 56.
Yeah, so for that instance, you just said Jaylen Brown is making $60.7 million per year. Mm-hmm. I expect Jaylen Brown to be in an MVP category every single. He's not the best player on his team,
right?
Karl Anthony Towns is making 56.
He's also
he's also not the best
player on his team.
Yeah.
Once again,
but that's what my point is. Like, so
is
that's the worth I'm talking about is that they're not the best because you're telling me Jason Tatum. That's basically you're telling me it's a restructuring of the contract, right? Mm-hmm. And it's backloaded. So, but you're telling me that Jaylen Brown is worth more to you than Jason Tatum. Right. No, I don't have any problem with Jaylen Brown. I like Jaylen Brown as a player. I think he's a really good player, but he's not a number one. He's not the guy that you pay $60 million. I expect him to go get me 30, 10, and 15 every single night. 30, 10, 15, 13, 10, 15. Boom. Be in contention to MVP. That's what I expect.
MVP with 30, 10, and 15.
Correct. Look at Jokic.
That's Jokic.
Look at Embiid. Like, that's what they got. They average a triple-double. So, they should. Exactly. You're right. But, when you look at they're going to inflate it because these owners know they're going to get their money back. I mean, we talk about it all the time. Anytime someone makes it to the Super Bowl, look how big Joe Cool now got it. He got it since going to LSU, having the swagger with a cigar, dominant-ass team, right?
Yep.
And then goes to the NFL, takes his team after tearing his ACL to the Super Bowl, and look at the Cincinnati's. I guarantee if you went from 2020 to 20, obviously season tickets probably rose from 2020, but because there was no seat, no one could sit in the stands. But you could probably see the inflation, like, oh, this guy's gonna be fucking good. Mm-hmm. Like we drafted the next like Montana, or we drafted the next Brady. Like that's probably what people are thinking. So that's what I'm saying is like that's a business side. We'll make our money back, no problem. In 1 weekend of jersey sales and season tickets.
But you know what the most ludicrous thing I've heard this week is?
Chris Bridges.
No. Ohio State throwing $25 million
at fucking Marvin Harrison Jr.
For which 1 year, damn well knowing that it might not end in a national championship. So what's the point?
I mean, if he comes back, you will see a lot of the top quarterback recruits trying to get into Ohio State.
But it has to happen now. It's not if not.
But
like
ultimately, Ohio State has done, and this is just not like this is taking my fandom of Michigan away. Mm-hmm. Ohio State has produced if not as much, good receivers as Alabama, as a lot of these type schools. So like, if you're a transfer going in the portal, you should want to go to Ohio State because you're going to have a good receiving core regardless.
Right.
But do you think they missed that guy already? Should Dylan Gabriel have been who they went after aggressively?
No. I never thought he was good at UCF. I thought he was okay. He was a game manager. Okay. There we go. He's a game manager. He did what he did in the American Conference, but then the Big 12 exposed him in Oklahoma. He had some good games, some highlights, but Big 12.
Okay, so who's the guy? Manning? Who's that guy? Who did they go after?
Manny's not transferring. No, Manny's not transferring.
It was Malik's the one that said
Malik Murphy is to transfer. But they already got their guy. Apparently, Trey said
if not, they're from Aaron Nolan. That's the plan right now. Is Aaron Nolan? He's coming in 4-star with some speed. That's been the plan. Maurice Correct basically has been taking pictures with the kids. I'm driving him to Columbus. Like he literally was online during the fourth quarter Michigan game. Like I will drive him out there. So it may be him. But there's other guys in the portal, so we'll ultimately see what happens. But they'll figure it out.
I mean, bro, that used to be $20,000 in a brown paper bag. I was talking 25 mil. What the hell?
That's the thing. It's open cap.
it probably was 25 mil.
But college football is what baseball is. It's no cap. So you're damn right. And at this point, Ohio State is the Yankees. You know, Michigan is the Dodgers. You know, these schools are. That's what they are. The schools who can print money. Alabama is. You know, the Cubs. Like these are like the story.
Well, it's like Matt Rule said, and everyone would criticize him. You know, if you're not willing to pay a quarterback $1.5, $2 million, you're going to lose on the top.
I'm pretty sure he said 5.
No, he said like $1 to $2 million a year. You're not going to get the best quarterback in the draft or in the draft.
It's essentially the draft.
Definitely draft, right? Like you're meeting with people's, you know, so like that's the realistic thing is a lot of these schools are, and a lot of these mid-American, like, you know, like Liberty and everything are like, well, why aren't we contending? It's like, well, you're not contending for the top guys in the country. I'm not saying you're not a good football team because being 13-0 is a very difficult task in any level of football. Doesn't matter if you're in Pee-wees all the way up to NFL. Being 13-0 is congratulations. You guys deserve that. But you guys stepping on the field with one of the Power Fives like Bama, Texas, Michigan, Ohio State, you're going to get rolled. Mm-hmm. Sorry, but it's just truth.
You guys heard it right here on Cinco Squad. TreyDay called it. He called the Lakers. He said LeBron was going to win one for his team. The rookies actually spoke about it. Congrats to the Los Angeles Lakers on winning the first ever NBA in-season tournament. But come on now. You're the most storied franchise in the NBA, and you want to hang a banner up just because it's the first one ever? I mean, are we serious right now? You got 17 NBA championship banners hanging up in your arena. That's like saying, like, you won like a chocolate chip bacon cookie contest when you were in 7th grade and you got a nice little trophy for that, and you want that to be amongst your accolades as a professional athlete in your trophy case. There's a time and there's a place for things. And a banner for winning the NBA in-season tournament does not deserve to be up in the Raptors with an NBA championship Raptor. I don't care what anybody tells me. Lakers, you're taking this one a bit too far. If it was the Timberwolves or the Suns or the Grizzlies or the Jazz that got nothing to hang, sure, hang it up because maybe that starts, it kills the curse. I don't know. But I don't think the Lakers need to do this. They're way too classy and they're the storied franchise of the NBA. Maybe you do something like you have the trophy somewhere and you encase it so the players can see it or whatever it is, or you put it on display when people walk into the arena. But you're gone too far, Lakers. You're gone too far.
And we are definitely talking about money this show because TreyDay brought up a good topic of how do we feel about the impact of sports gambling in sports at the end of the day. So what do you guys think about, gambling in total? Do you think it's played a factor? A lot of these teams. Mikey?
I mean, yeah, I think it's been interesting to see how all of a sudden it went from you can't gamble on sports at all to now you can gamble on sports pretty much everywhere with the click of a button. Gotta love women. We talked about computers and technology last week, and it's crazy how technology has advanced it so much. And I think The thing is, it's weird. I would love to know how players see it because it is so part of the sports culture now. Is like, I mean, in case in point, we one of the top sports podcasts in the world, as I see it, have an entire segment devoted to bets of the week, locks of the week,
top 3,
because it's important and it does very well because people are interested in it. Jamie does a very good job. He's very knowledgeable about it because he's interested in it. And so I think the impact has changed sports, maybe not the specific teams, but I think the sports gambling has changed the culture. It's changed how we view sports and how a lot of people interact with sports. It's less fandoms. I've started to notice it's less fandoms and more players.
More money,
it's more
right.
what a player can do for you, what a team can do for you versus I grew up. Like all of us are obviously very entrenched in sports in our lives and we have our fandoms and we're very locked into our fandoms and we root for our teams no matter whatever the bet is. But there's a lot of people in America and around the world that it's just, well, I like Messi because he's always a safe bet for that goal a game bet, putting $10 on him and that he's going to score because he's usually good for at least a goal a game. Or I like Ohtani because he's good for 10 strikeouts or a home run a game. He's a safe bet. You hear that? I've heard that a lot more now from sports fans. He's a safe bet or she's a safe bet. So I think, it's maybe not changed the way leagues operate necessarily other than sponsorships and stuff like that, but it's changed the way fans operate.
For instance, I mean, sports gambling has always been a part of sports, whether it's been legal or not, right? So, I mean, we can't ignore the fact of that. But I'm seeing more and more where like it's the over under, and what's the plus minus. That's where people are calling games. That's how That's how big sports journalists are deciding the games. They're not looking at the play on the field very much anymore. They're looking at, okay, what's the plus minus? Yeah, I think they can cover that. So I think it's gonna be a close matchup. It's like, oh, okay. So you think that they're gonna, you know what I mean? So when I'm looking at that type of thing, I think sports gambling has kind of enhanced it because now it's brought it out in the open. But it's also hurt it just because, like you said, the fandoms. You're missing out on fans because I have some people I talk to and they're just like, yeah, I lost like $400 the other night. Screw the Yankees. I'm like, aren't you a Yankees fan? He goes, I'm a money man first. I'm like, okay, but
right.
Aren't you the one putting the money into the?
You don't have to.
Not like for me. I mean, it goes back to something Trey and I always say. Like when we're playing fantasy football, that's the most gambling I ever do is that. But if the Eagles are playing and I lose my fantasy football, I'm more mad about the Eagles losing than the fantasy football. I mean, it's just the truth of it all. Like I don't care. I care about it, but I don't at the same time. I think it's good for sports. People like it. People do it. But I also think it can be a really bad thing, too. The fun gambling, once in a while, here you go, like little $1 or $2 bets. Okay, let's throw it in there. But some people just lose their life over this stuff. You know what I'm saying? Not like death, but like lose their actual like
lose their lives over it.
Lose their lives and stuff. So I think it's a serious thing, too. It's like
going wrong.
Yeah.
Well, hold on. If we take it to the history of gambling, it started in the arenas in Rome, right? And then it then went on to the Olympics, which were more modern day. But in between that, and with people betting on which warrior would survive, there was tribes in Central America, the Mayas and Aztecs. They played a game called Pocketalk, right? And Pocketalk, however you want to call it, Pocketalk was played with knees only. You couldn't use your hands, and it was like this stone-like ball that had to go through an NBA rim. If you consider moving the rim to the side like this, and you had to hit it through the hole inside of this rim-like structure. And it was a way that tribes literally settle disputes. And sometimes the losers were sacrificed to the gods. So like in the midst of how gambling kind of happened in sports in the history of it, people did lose their lives. Modern day, it's because assholes take loans from pool sharks and don't think they mean business when they say, I'll put you down. And what was that movie with Adam Sandler again? Remember that one? Where he wanted to
I
even saw the knuckles in there and shoot him and his uncle or whatever, his cousin at the end, right? So
spoiler alert.
I get all the time. It started off as high stakes. What it's turned into is a bit of a luxury of people all feeling like they have a stake in a game, and that brings you closer to the game. So the average fan feels like they're invested now where they may not have a team, but like Mikey said, they have a player, be it that it's a prop bet or something of a fantasy team player. Because look, guys, we're betting every week. We put money in to play fantasy sports, right? So that means it's an ongoing gambling tournament that we have a vested interest in every week. And because of that, we show maybe much more interest in what's going on with teams we don't care about, like what's happening with Houston's injury report this week or Cleveland's, all right? For God's sake, why would we have cared about that 6 years ago if we weren't playing fantasy football? 60 million fantasy football players, by the way, this year between America and Canada. And if you look at who is gambling, 18-year-olds or almost 24% of the population 18 and up is gambling in North America. So 1 every 4 people are putting a bet on the line every week. Does every sport love this? Hell yeah. Why?
Of course.
Because you're going to tune in at some point. But let me give you some
rating.
advice. If you want to have fun gambling, don't go with a team. Don't go with a player. Go with the over or the under because you're cheering for both teams to either not score or score. So the whole time you're like, don't do it. You're like, yes, score the ball, right? Both ways, you get to cheer on both teams doing a good thing or, in your case, a bad thing by scoring. And it makes it a little more fun that way. It's daunting to look at it or try and cheer or go to a game in any other way. Trust me, I've done it. Monday Night Football game, Bucs against the Rams back in 2003. Yeah, my bet won, so I'm up in my chairs dancing. Had I not won, despite the fact that the Bucs won the game, I would have been a miserable shit walking out of there. And that's what it does to you. It takes away from the true fandom of your team may have done great, but if you had something going one way, now you're miserable. Sports aren't supposed to be like that. Sports supposed to be a celebration of the moment and your team or certain people that you're cheering on. And unfortunately, gambling takes away from the joy more than anything else because rule number 1, the house will always win. Mm-hmm.
Yep. That's the truth of it all. Trey, what do you think?
No, I mean, for me, gambling, like I occasionally gamble in. But I'm cheap. I put a couple dollars down here and there. I don't spend. I try to go for like the long shot bet. Just throw $2 down, see if I can come up on 250 or something crazy like that. But for me, like gambling is good in a way because it does bring people out who would never watch sports. It maybe keeps you watching a game that you wouldn't have normally watched. Like y'all said, who would give a damn about Houston's injury report? But you're like, oh, I do got Tank Dell is on my fantasy team, so oh shit, my guy's hurt. And it's like you don't even like Houston, but because Tank Dell's on your fantasy team, now you feel like you just lost an investment too. The downside to it is sometimes people start going too crazy where somebody maybe does the right football play, the right basketball play, and fans like, I can't believe this. He ruined my thing. Because if this guy literally sat here and said, you know what I'm going to do? Brian in Minnesota, I'm going to ruin your day. I'm going to drop this ball because I don't give a damn about my team. I don't give a damn about winning. I just want to fuck over Brian in Minnesota. That's exactly why I show up to play football today. Like that's stupid to me. And that gets annoying with fans with that. Then you got the other fair weather fans who it's cool because you get to discuss sports, but I've had people I'm trying to discuss sports and X and O's and all they want to talk about is gambling, which is cool if you can do both. If not, it is what it is. I like to talk X's and O's. That shit's fun to me. I love getting to the minutia of it. I think that's what the 4 of us have in common. But there is also a certain segment that would never watch sports or wasn't for gambling. So for that sake, it's good because it does bring up the TV ratings. We got players you would have never heard of who people now are household names solely because of gambling. But we also have people who are household names for the wrong reasons because of gambling. Look at like Kadarius Toney. Right now, he's for the wrong reason a household name, and people are probably sitting out here with voodoo dolls cursing him because they had the Chiefs in the money line, and he put his big size 15 onto 49 instead of at the 50. Whatever. That's between Kadarius and Patrick. But anyways, gambling is good for sports, but still at the end of the day, people do it in moderation. And if you are a gambler, try to actually enjoy the game. Try to actually learn some X and O's. You're already here. Why not try to learn the X and O's? Learn why they're doing what they're doing. Don't just say they didn't give it to my guy. There is a method behind the madness. Whether we think these coaches are idiots or some are, there's a reason why they're playing the way they are or calling the game the way they are.
Right.
Yeah, Kevin Durant's been the most vocal person, I would say, an athlete about all that crap. Like, you think I'm really here to boost your fantasy team? Yeah, he's missed.
Yeah, true.
That's the thing, right? Like, and that's one thing I love about sports gambling is the one part about people who don't like the sport and are trying to get into the sport start to watch the games a little bit more, learn the game, that type of thing. I've seen people go do that for hockey. Like hockey, NHL is one of the most underrated sports in America, in my opinion.
Yes.
And anytime someone goes to it, I tell people just go to a game. They're like, I don't watch it on TV. I was like, you can't get into hockey unless you go to a game, and you will immediately fall in love with the game and not the game of fighting. And that's one thing I always hate about hockey. There are less fights now than there ever has been. I know the Florida Panthers are not proving my point really right now. That's a separate topic. But when you look at hockey is a great sport. I won't get into that right now. But when you look at a sport like that, people bet on the Maple Leafs always beating the Lightning or something like that. And it's like, okay, well, go to a game, enjoy the game, learn it, but don't and gamble kind of like Trey does. Like do a little bit of here, win some maybe like $100, take whoever out to dinner, whatever. Go out to dinner yourself, have yourself a nice meal, those type of things, but don't bet your house on the damn freaking game. And one thing I was listening to this week is Michael Porter Jr. was talking with Aaron Gordon about this, and he was saying half his DMs are people that are either death threats because he either lost the game or lost the fantasy game for him, or they're like, oh, thank you, bro. You won me $100, blah, blah, blah. And Aaron Gordon's like, yeah, I get that. I got that so much in Orlando because Aaron Gordon was like at the pinnacle in Orlando.
He was one of the guys.
And people were so like inundated. And I think that's terrible because what it ultimately does is ruin the fandomship. That's what I think about it. And ruin the fandomship in the sense of players going before the game. I remember when you could go to a game and you knew before the game you could get some autographs. You can go get star player autographs, those type of things. Now you can't really do it. Number one, because you'll see a guy there with like 6 footballs, sign them all, then they'll be on eBay the next night because Stephon Diggs or that type of thing. While a kid right here is suffering behind him because he can't get his football signed. All he wants to do is have his favorite player sign the football. Now that's not really gambling. That's just the money side of football and like the sports memorabilia world. But those type of players are when they're like, oh, when they hear walking, you lost me $100,000. I hope everyone blah blah blah. Like sending death threats, that's a little far. If you are doing that to people, to these athletes, really you got to rethink your life in that aspect because that's something that maybe you should rethink their life because they're perfectly fine. They're going home with a $300,000 game check. You're not. So ultimately, sports gambling I think is fun. I think it's cool to do like the squares for Super Bowl. I like doing those. But like you said, like for last year, when the Eagles lost the Super Bowl, I felt demoralized. Like I was like, I took my jersey off, I went right to bed. I took a shower, went to bed. I felt like I played the game. Like I was pacing, I was like in the phantom shit. And like Malin was like, why do you care so much? And it's like, this is my love. Like, this is what I care about. And like, I feel like we lose that a lot of times with sports gambling, which on the other side, I don't like as well. You lose that type of hype. That's like, when you got people don't know. And a lot of people love sports, but like you said, Jay, it's a double-edged sword. Now, usually I'm talking about my Michigan Wolverines, but I got to bring it home. And I mean home to the 315. Shout out to Fran Brown, man. He coming in and doing work immediately. Flipping a 5-star recruit DB from Texas A&M to come to Syracuse. And I love the kid's energy. This is only the beginning. That's what he said in the beginning. So I'm hyped to see what he has to bring. He's a #1 recruiter in 2023. Obviously, it's not that hard to recruit for Georgia when you're the national champions and you got all the top recruits going there anyways. But he's doing his thing at Syracuse right now. So I want to shout out Fran Brown. Looking forward to seeing what comes of this. And obviously, I'm a Michigan fan, but I always got to represent my hometown. Go Orange. So as we continue gambling and going into, sports and talk about gambling on players gambling on each other, players in schools gamble in the transfer portal all the time. We talked about this a little bit before about how, transfer portal is a guessing game. You don't know who's going to fit with your system. You don't know who's going to fit with what. So what is the impact of players being able to transfer as much as they are in the transfer portal? And what's, players not being able to – I know the NCAA just released that they're now going to allow the second transfer year. They're letting that kind of
It's a temporary restraining order. So a federal judge just issued a 14-day temporary restraining order today, basically stating, I'm granting an issue a temporary restraining order for 14 days enjoining the NCAA from enforcing the transfer eligibility rule insofar as it requires the transfer to sit out for an academic year of residence and the rule of restitution. So basically he's trying to say that kids don't have to sit out if they transfer twice right now. And that's
in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big risk for these kids. And I know, I was speaking to it earlier. Leonard Hamilton was talking about this, and I'll put this up simultaneously with this clip, his interview, and he was talking about how the transfer portal, it's a hit or miss now in college basketball and college sports in general, because a lot of these kids are signing contracts and then they're leaving. And then one reporter was like, well, you guys sign contracts and you leave whenever the hell you want.
Yep.
And then he put him back in his place and saying, well, only out of 300 coaches, 30 of those coaches are the ones moving every single year. So it's not a very big percentage. We're just seeing the big name schools, right? So
compared to 655 athletes this year.
Correct.
But that's still, in the overall, that number still is not super high in overall percent. If you look at how many athletes versus how many Division I schools you have.
Right.
Correct. It's a never ending cycle. Like you can go back and forth, but then someone can go right in front of you on this. Like it's happening. At the end of the day, these coaches that have been there, I'm sorry, but it's happening, and you have to either get with it or get out. Like we've seen with a lot of these coaches. So TreyDay, what kind of impact do you think this is taking, that they're gambling on these for players and coaches?
I mean, I think at this point, to be honest with you, the transfer portal going forward is going to be more important to actual recruiting day. Recruiting National Signing Day doesn't mean squat. Everybody jumps up and says, oh, my God, I got the top recruiting class and all that. There's a good chance that whoever you got, you get 10 5-stars. Only 5 of those 5-stars are probably actually going to make it the whole time through your program. A couple of them aren't going to start. They're going to bounce. And in the end, did you really have 25 scholarship athletes that year, or did you really have 10? Because only 10 will stay, and you're going to replace them with some more. So if you're a coach, if you want to sit there and play, I don't want to get in the transfer portal and all that, you're going to get left behind. You're going to lose. You're going to lose that battle. That is what this is. The transfer portal is now free agency. Perfect example, my Buckeyes. At one point, we had Quinn Ewers. When we had Quinn Ewers, Quinn wasn't going to start behind Stroud. On top of Quinn not being able to start behind Stroud, at the time, Texas wasn't doing NIL money. He deep down wanted to go to Texas. As soon as he had the opportunity to transfer, he goes to Texas, does his transfer. Meanwhile, Ohio State gets stuck with McCord. You know why? Because nobody else wanted to come there at the time, because nobody's like, okay, I'm going to have to go compete with Ewers at that point. So Ohio State, because they didn't play the transfer portal right, get stuck with Kyle McCord, and that's how you end up in the position that you are with Kyle McCord and Devin Brown having a battle without. If you don't use the transfer portal right, and it shows you in the last few years, look at the Heisman ceremony. Who were the top 3 people in the Heisman this year? You had Jaden Daniels, you had Michael Penix, and you had Bo Nix. What do all 3 of those have in common other than being a quarterback?
Transfer.
All 3 were transfer. What else do all 3 of them have? They all played at good teams on top of that. And what else happened recently? Joe Burrow went to the transfer portal. He wins the Heisman. Jaden wins the Heisman. So we have 2 very recent Heisman winners who were in. We had the whole Heisman stack win.
It's 5 of the last 7 have entered the transfer portal.
So 5 of the last 7. Right. Okay, so 5 of the last 7.
And the biggest thing is, right, like as a player, you're going in, you're talking with these coaches, right? And we say this all the time when they get drafted to the NFL, to the NBA, to the NHL, the MLB, right? You get in on these teams, you start talking to the coach, and the coach and you maybe are hitting it off great, right? And then you get into a game, and the coach isn't utilizing your skill set. You're not fitting the system, right? A lot of the times it's just that. And that's why I think the transfer portal is so key, right? Anyone can sit there and talk to you and say, hey, yeah, come to my school, those type of things. This is what we can do for you until you get into the game. And I think that's where a lot of people don't understand is like when we get into game live action, that is when you'll know if this guy fits for you. You will never know looking at a tape. You'll never know looking at anything else other than when he gets on that field. Now, it does help if you have a bunch of 5-stars around you that are really all-Americans, going to NFL, those type of things. But you have to look at it as you need to fit the system. Deion Sanders said it this week, or last week, actually. He was talking about how he's only got 4 scholarship high school kids on the roster. And he said, what's happening is exactly what Trey said, and I think he's alluding to that same interview, is the fact that the transfer portal is where you're going to win football games. These 5-star recruits can come in and learn from these transfers, because if you're not grabbing guys who have college experience, why do you think there's so much parity in college basketball now? A lot of these big name guys are going to these schools that are mid-major schools and, realistically not, fitting at the big name schools and going to the mid-majors. And look at FAU, look at Farley Dickinson, look at these schools that are competing. Southern beating Mississippi State. You got every single USF beating Florida State. USF has had a terrible record over the last 10 years. Upsets a big ACC opponent. Realistically, Leonard Hamilton hasn't won in the transfer portal yet. A lot of these guys have 8-9 transfers. Not a lot of high school recruits. You know what I'm saying? So the high school recruits, it goes back to, like, are we going to now – what are we going to do with the high school recruits? You know what I mean? Are we going to try to mature them? Are we going to try to have some sort of eligibility where, like, you know what I mean? Like, where it goes to, like, in hockey, for instance, if you're not ready to go into hockey, into college hockey, you go play juniors for a couple of years. You mature. You learn how to play fast.
Well, we already have the system to mature. It's called a red shirt.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying. It's like hockey does that without even losing any eligibility. You go into the NHL.
Because there's a system for it. There's an in between, right? So
correct. You go play juniors and you go play, and then they either say, "Okay, you're ready to go," or whatnot. So I don't know, Grandpa Jay, what do you think?
I think it's become a very confusing system, but it's convoluted. Like, there are up to 14% of players leaving across the board throughout all sports, and maybe half of them are going to have a successful transfer. So it's a huge risk, and that's 1 in every 7 players almost, like, across all sports. They're going to say, yep, I'm going to make that jump. But what it's really doing is convoluted is the word I'm looking for. What it's really doing is it's taken away from somebody actually choosing the school for the right reason. So when you're trying to teach a kid, in my case, I'm coaching, I'm trying to teach these kids what to look for and how to choose your school. A lot more of it is predicated on the factors that make you want to have an enjoyable experience in said school and town. So is the weather favorable? How's the food on campus? How close is it to home? Is the education of the value of where you see yourself afterwards from a career standpoint? But what is coming right now is basically, it's like, where do I want to play ball? Where do I want to swim? Where do I want to play tennis? Where do I want to play? And nothing else matters, because, like, I don't give a shit if I like this place or not for 6, 8, 9, 10 months. I'm out, like, right away. And right away. And really what it should be teaching athletes is, for instance, like, you get someone who comes in for the transfer portal late and you now fill the key position, even though you got a 5-star recruit at that position. Yay for you, coach. Depth equals success. Well, one of those players is like, I'm out. I'm rescinding. I don't want to sign with you anymore. So now, instead of an athlete embracing competing against the best on his or her team, because that person may have just raised your game instantly, because they're like, hey, I can't really treat this summer the way I was going to treat it. I got to be all in 100%, because I was going there thinking I have the starting job, or I'm going to be on the A team or not the B team, or the A relay or the B relay. Now this summer is fully dedicated to my craft. That's what you want in this sport. You want your freshman, or you want your incoming freshman to feel like, I have to go all in over the summer to make me better, which makes the product better. And it's diluted it. It's convoluting it. It's not guaranteeing a great product amongst the masses. You're saying, yes, we're getting more parity, but I think it's such an easy out. I don't know if it's teaching the right lesson to athletes.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point, especially from a coach yourself, teaching these kids, like, hey, coach, they're taking all these transfers. What do I do? It's like,
right
now you're trying now. Coaches of the youth and the 18 and U coaches are now having to relearn kind of how to recruit for their kids, because is it going in there getting a lot of these 5 stars may get looked over because, okay, we got this force, like, for instance, for Mike's UNC team. They lost Caleb Love, I think, went to Arizona. For Arizona, a 5-star kid may have been coming in there.
No, you ain't the starting point guard, son.
You ain't the starting point guard no more. So, Mike, what kind of impact are you seeing on your end, good or bad?
So 3 things from what you guys said kind of stand out. A, John, I like your point about the hockey, that they have that kind of middle level where you can go to juniors. You're starting to see that a little bit with basketball, where you'll see kids take an extra year of prep school before they go in. It's not nearly as widespread as you'll see the juniors, the guys that end up going into college, but it's starting to become kind of a thing. So 2 examples kind of stood out to me as to the impact that it's having. One is at John and I's school, St. Bonaventure. A couple of years ago, had a great year, went to the tournament, had a great starting lineup. What happens? Well, one of them, Jalen Adaway, he was graduating anyway, but the other 4 left. Oshun Osuni and Jaron Holmes both go to Iowa State. Kyle Lofton goes to Florida. Don Welch goes to Alabama. And all of a sudden, Coach Mark Schmidt has his bench guys, and he has to dip into the transfer portal. He ends up getting Daryl Banks because St. Peter's had a really great year, and they had a bunch of people leave. And he gets Daryl Banks from St. Peter's.
And ultimately, the only 2 players that really mattered out of that team that left, I mean, yeah, the 2 went to Iowa State, but Kyle Lofton and the other guy that went to Bama had mediocre years, but I think they really could have probably taken Bonaventure. They wanted to taste the NCAA tournament again. They should have went back to Bonaventure because that would have They would have went back, probably been a very contending team, right? Like they have a lot of chemistry, a lot of talent coming back. Those type of things are what I'm seeing, as well as like you're trying to dip the Power 5 is still relevant, and trying to dip your toe back into the Power 5. Right. That these kids are saying, okay, I wasn't a Power 5 recruit, now I am. Right. You see the flash. Those 2 saw the flashing lights of Florida and Alabama in the Power 5, and they're like, oh, well, this is my chance to be seen on whether they're making a tournament or not, to be seen on a national stage. Mm-hmm. Florida and Alabama at most times are going to naturally get more coverage, national 100%. Coverage than St. Bonaventure, unless you get deep into A10 play where St. Bonaventure's good. Then they'll start getting some looks, but even so, it's a Power 5 school. The other one, a particular player that schools bet on, and he bet on himself, and it continuously started working out less and less. I know you guys remember him. For those out there that don't remember him, his name was JT Daniels.
I knew you were about to say him.
Yep. 2 years at USC. What was it? 2 years at USC, 2 years at Georgia, a year at West Virginia, a year at Rice. And now he's retired. Now he's retired because it progressively didn't work out. He kept getting injured. Right. He kept getting injured. And these injuries, boom. Right.
It wasn't working when he was healthy. It wasn't going to work.
I mean, he had a few good games, but it was like he get 1-2 games done for the season. Right. ACL, those type of things. Yeah, he'd have a couple good games at USC, and so he's leaving, and it's like, oh, Georgia's like, oh, okay, experienced quarterback. He showed some flashes. Same thing happens at Georgia. West Virginia's like, well, okay, like we want to get back into prominence. We'll take him. Doesn't work out again, and then he's left with Rice, which, no offense to Rice, but it's not nearly any of those other 3 schools. It's not even West Virginia, let alone Georgia and USC. No. We'll see how Georgia
we don't want to hear
won 2 national championships after he left. Yeah.
Well, no, they won a national championship that year. That he was there. He got hurt, and Stetson Bennett took over.
They did win that one.
Yeah. So
he was. I always forget he was the one.
He started the Clemson game. That's why that Clemson game was so low. And then he got hurt in the Clemson game. Stetson Bennett took over, and basically it was his team from there on out. But I mean, I could see why they see the shining lights. I saw Florida this past weekend. The way they roll, the way they, with the Jordan brand everywhere, they got the way they come into the arena. It's almost like a god walking through the. That's what it felt like. And you had the likes of Florida State, USF. I mean, Richmond's been a big A10 school, but like Florida walks in, and it's like. It felt like the suits, like it's like the Dodgers or the Yankees or any of those big name teams, walking through. It was like, damn, they come with a presence, and I think that's why a lot of these kids do the transfer portal, because they want to go be a part of that presence. I mean, they were packing the house with Florida fans. I showed it in my clip. Like I was like, damn, this is the lower bowl was packed with blue. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just a different atmosphere. I mean, you and I know from being at Bonaventure. They love their team and they get wild for their team, but it's still, it's if they could do it, I think they would do it. And maybe they're supposed to be renovating the Riley or rebuilding the Riley Center, and maybe they'll build that up even more. But it's just It's just the presence
It's these kids want to. That's part of the allure in the transfer portal. And now that they have the ability to either go once or twice, it's it's the bright shining light. It's all Hollywood now. Power 5 schools are Hollywood, whether they're in Hollywood or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I should be talking about Tommy Cutlets, but there's something else on my mind this week. NFL, can we stop with these wishy-washy calls? Apparently, the ground can't cause a fumble sometimes and can cause a fumble other times. He's not giving himself. How is Saquon Barkley not giving himself up when he falls to the ground surrounded by defenders? It's not like he's trying to, he, at no point was trying to get up and continue running. He was just on the ground. And now the ground can cause a fumble. And so now Saquon Barkley has a fumble to his record. Are you kidding me? So taking away from the amazing performance of the New York Giants led by, once again, Tommy Cutlets, is a fumble by Saquon Barkley that in no way, shape, or form should be a fumble. So let's fix these rules. Let's actually get some consistency with these rule callings.
As we move into our last topic of the, we talk about gambling and talk about everything. This year, Mikey and I are eliminated from the fantasy football at Cinco Squad.
Yep.
Congratulations to Mr. TreyDay and Grandpa Jay for making the playoffs. I had my 2 best weeks against y'all the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, thanks to make my team look like poop last week.
So this brings up an interesting thing. Who has been your fantasy football player, I guess, that's been your kryptonite this year? And we'll go from
Well,
right
I
to
thought
left,
it was
left.
just anytime, like not just this year.
Yeah, anytime.
Oh, okay.
Anytime.
You said this year. I was making sure we were not just doing this year.
Anytime. TreyDay, go ahead.
Okay, for me it was Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones has been a thorn in my ass.
Yes,
Aaron Jones, so Aaron Jones kind of came out first. He wasn't like the guy in Green Bay. Then he kind of balls out a year, and then I'm like, all right, you know who I'm gonna draft? I'm gonna get Aaron Jones, and I comboed him with Aaron Rodgers at the time. I'm like, I think I remember I named my team Aaron and out. And I'm like, I'm about to run this shit. And Aaron Jones that year went up and down, was inconsistent. And like 1 week he would ball, 1 week he wouldn't. I had a couple other good running backs. I just didn't know when to play him, and I was frustrated. So I'm like, I probably can't draft this guy again. After that, every year at some point, and actually the year before he had burned me, but every year at some point I play a team with Aaron Jones and I end up losing. This year, week 1, my team went 11-3. Week 1, Aaron Jones went off for like 27 fantasy points. It's not even like he did that much. Homeboy had 40 yards rushing, but he had a touchdown. He had 86 yards receiving, but he only had 2 catches and a touchdown. And it was like the guy made all of 3 big plays, but of course, it's the week I'm playing him, and then this whole year he's been up and down, injured. But it always seems to be every time I'm playing Aaron Jones, that's when he just decides, you know what, I'm about to ball. So Aaron Jones has been a thorn in my ass and a kryptonite. That's no shade to Aaron Jones. I'm sure he's probably a good guy, but damn, Aaron, why can't you pick the weeks you don't play me to ball out? Mike, who's been a thorn in your ass?
Well, I'm glad you're the one that asked me, Trey, because the thorn in my ass has been someone I believe you had when we played earlier this season. John remembers this because I bitched to him about it on the phone the next day. So this has been the biggest thing for me, and it's Jamar Chase, because
Jamie did.
Oh, it was Jamie. Okay.
Yeah,
it
Jamie
was one of the
Chase.
top teams.
Yeah,
So
Jamie
I'm sorry,
Chase.
Jamie, your Jamar Chase has been a thorn in my ass. My whole season has been marred with guys that I get every week. I get one guy that does really well, one or two guys do really well.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't Keenan.
Keenan.
No, because I matched Keenan that week with like Hopkins.
Okay.
I had finally a week where my team all played fantastic. Everybody's getting 15, 20 points apiece. Like, we're doing great. The Eagles defense had a great week, so I think they had like 14 points. Yes, thank you. The one time I'll ever thank the Eagles defense. The one time I'll ever thank the Eagles defense. They had like 2 picks and like a fumble recovery, only gave up like 10 points that game or something like that. My kicker hit like I forget who I had in kicker, but he hit like 2 50-yarders. Like, I'm doing great. And goddamn Jamar Chase decided to complain before the game about how he's always open. And so Burrow just decided to throw it to no one but him. He goes off for what was it, like 150 yards and 2 touchdowns?
A lot.
When I really don't need him to get he had like he had like a bunch of, he had like 40 something points in 1 week that I need him to not get. He could have gotten in the 30s and I would have won. He could have gotten 39 and I would have won. But no, he's got to break 40. I lose, and I blame that game. I blame that early matchup for the reason why I did not make the playoffs, not the other, 10 losses.
Can I have an honorable mention for Mike? His kryptonite is his team names. Because he decided
I always name my
fucking Giants players.
Yep.
And he always has to draft. And like we all have said this to him, you don't have to draft those players.
But
he's like, but I have to. It's on my team. I'm like, yeah, but like you don't have the name him after Barkley or something. Like name him after someone that's going to produce for you, bro. Like
I really thought Jalen Hyatt was going to, but they didn't use him until now. Yeah. They're using him now.
Tommy DeVito be your first pick next year. Got it.
No, I think I can.
Mikey cut clips. That's can be your clip. That way you don't have to draft anyone. So
yeah.
All right. So my kryptonite this year, and like every single year, it just seems to be the same person for the last like 4 or 5 years, and that's Debo. Debo is fucking let me down more times or not. Every time. Like I'll put him on my bench, he'll have 29. I'll put him in the lineup, he'll have 3. And then I'll put him back on my bench, 29. Put him back in my lineup, 3. Or gets injured and has to leave the game for a couple. I'm like, God damn it, Debo. Now these last 2 weeks. And then it's always when it doesn't matter, I'll leave him in, and he just goes off for the last 2 games to give me my highest point streak. And, you know, I love drafting him, but I'm like, God damn it. No wonder no one wanted you in the 6th round. But no, hats off Debo. He's a top 5 receiver in the league, 100% overall player. Jamie, Grandpa Jay, take us home. Who's your kryptonite?
It's more like it's the quarterback position. I gambled this year, went with depth and went with Deshaun. Can I get a hand on me, Watson? And that didn't work out so great. I mean, also like, yeah, week 3, we're on the up. I like what I'm seeing, 23 points, and then homeboy disappears for 4 weeks. Comes back to have a negative 1.8 game. Luckily, I start Love instead of him, and Love goes off about 30 in that game. So I'm like, got my quarterback, but not so fast. I trade for my guy, Joe Cool, and I have him for all but 2 weeks. 2 weeks. And my boy decides that he's going to sit out the rest of the season. So quarterback position has kind of haunted me. Luckily, I have really awesome matchups with Love in these 2 weeks for the playoffs. But that's if I make it out of the playoffs. I got Tampa, who was given, I think they've given up the 5th most points to fantasy quarterbacks, and then Carolina the week after. So if somehow I can make it to the championship game, we might have a shot. But fuck the injury bug, because that's who's killing me right now. Going into this semifinal matchup, I got Olave's questionable. I got JJ, Justin Jefferson's questionable. Jacob's questionable. Keenan Allen is questionable. In fact, Keenan Allen is now ruled out. He's ruled out. All right. Ramondre Stevenson is ruled out. Chris Godwin's questionable, and the Cowboys are going to Buffalo. So every goddamn starter that I could start this week, I can't start in the semifinals of the playoffs. So fuck the injury bug this week. I'm just sick and tired of the same thing happened to me last year against your dad. 3 of my starters go out the week before the playoffs. I have an amazing regular season, and now I got nothing to show for it again this year. So,
well, you might want to put Jay Jetta back in because he said he's playing today.
Yeah, who's going to throw him the ball? Freaking Tom Leosorta? Like, who's throwing him the ball? The guy who bought the most expensive freaking ticket to come to the game, sitting up in the booth. They're like, "Hey, we need you guys. You spent $50,000. Come on, you get a shot to throw the ball."
Be like invincible all over again in the play.
Holding trials.
Oh man. So, well, good luck to you guys. I know Mike and I will be sitting and
looking like a Trey and Brandon.
We should have done a final whistle for Mike and I because we were limited a while ago. So.
I was going to say, like a few weeks ago.
Well, fellas, I want to get back on my winning streak right now as we play Stump the Squad.
All right, boys and girls, and all you crazy people out there, it's our favorite time of the show. It is Stump the Squad. This is when we ask each other a series of questions to see who we can stump. If you get it right, you get +2. If you get it wrong, you get -2. We know it all, so sometimes we just mess with you guys to make you feel like we don't. Hey, we got to keep it fun, right? But here's the deal. The person who has the most wins at show 100 gets crowned King of the Stump or King of the Stump the Squad. Whatever you guys want to phrase it at. I kind of like King of the Stump because that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get my crown on and win that Stump the Squad 100th show is where we're going to do it. So you guys got to stay tuned up until then. But let's take it away, boys. Yeah, boys and girls and ghouls and goblins. You know what time it is. Stump the Squad is back. Once again, our favorite time of the show. John is on a roll as of late. He was sick and tired of sitting on one. Right now, your boy is still ahead on the leaderboard, but let's see if one of these guys here gets a little bit closer at the end of this Stump the Squad. We never go with Mikey first, and we never really go with who's in the middle, I should say. So I'm going in El Medio because, Mike, give us our update and then take away our first question.
Yes, so allow me to pull up the scoreboard real quick. So as we enter the Stump the Squad, we currently have Jamie, as he said, sitting atop with 7 wins, Trey in second with 5, me in third with a convenient 3, and John currently in fourth, nipping at my heels with 2.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So we've discussed, guys, some ludicrous contracts. Yes, that's some Chris Bridges contracts.
That'll be Chris Bridges.
That would be Mr. Chris Bridges, the new face of State Farm. So tell me this. What is the most amount of money that Babe Ruth made in a single year? Is it A, 80,000, B, 60,000, C, 100,000, or D, 40,000?
In any year, right?
For a single year.
I'm going with a buffet. That guy like to eat. He was Zion before Zion.
Yes.
All you can eat passes. That's what
Only he performed better.
Well, yeah, so he performed with his fat self. 60,000. That's my guess.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
that came out to me immediately when you said it. 60,000.
Okay, John says 60,000.
Yeah, 60 sounds right, but I just want to say like 40,000 was so much back then too. So I'm gonna go with the low ball and go with 40.
Okay, so John and Trey say 60,000. Jamie says 40,000.
Yep.
This week I have successfully stumped
Let's go on.
the squad.
80,000. Damn it.
80,000.
Yeah.
$80,000. Damn it. For Babe Ruth. $80,000 now gets you a AA player.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. Although it's insane, as a side note, it's
And a
insane
mediocre
how
job.
little. Yeah. It's insane how little like first year minor league players get in baseball. It's like 10,000. Granted, I mean they get their food and travel and stuff, but it's 10,000. It's ridiculous.
Cool.
All right, Jamie, since it was your second guess, how about you go?
I should have gone with the gut. Anyway, so I am going to take it to current fourth quarter points per game because, man, oh, man, were those Monday night games so much more thrilling than I think any of us had thought they would have ended. We had a potential game-winning driver. Nope, that's the game-winning drive there. And then my guy, Will Levis, just showing up in the right moments there. But I would just say Miami kind of shit that one away. So, gentlemen, which one of these teams belong currently in the top 5 right now at this point in the season for most fourth quarter points scored per game?
Wow, good question.
Houston, Miami, San Francisco, or Atlanta?
I'm going Houston.
Yeah, I'm going Houston.
I want to say Houston.
So all you guys are going Houston?
Yeah. Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm going Houston.
And I have also stumped the squad this week.
Say Atlanta.
Atlanta sitting at 4. Atlanta sitting at 4. San Francisco 5. Miami 7. And Houston's 10. So at the top of the league, of course, Dallas at 8.8. Denver at 8.6. Buffalo at 8.5. Atlanta at 8.1. And the Niners at 7.9. So only 4 teams scoring more than 8 points a game in the fourth quarter.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Who you want next?
TreyDay.
Okay, so we just talked about fantasy football, so we're going to go historical fantasy football. So according to what I could find, I did some hardcore research on this. What team scored the most defensive fantasy football points in one single week? This is a standard. We're going with standard rules.
Oh shit!
This year.
No, just
Ever.
historically.
Ever.
Historically?
Ever. These are going to be 4 historical teams. Most points by fantasy defense in one single week.
Okay.
Oh, defense.
Defense. Just
I thought,
defense.
I thought you meant like team. My bad. In
The
the
most
history.
points scored in 1 week for as long as fantasy stats have been kept.
Yes, as long as fantasy has been kept up in fantasy stats, and they actually were able to track fantasy stats all the way back to the 60s.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we'll go with the 1987 Eagles, the 1989 Browns, the 1996 Patriots, the 2000 Ravens.
Oh, that
Okay,
Ravens team
so
was scoring
I was gonna
defense
say,
was scoring.
offhand, you would think it's the Ravens, but I'm willing to bet it's not.
That team was
Because
fucking. It felt like they were getting a sack, fumble, touchdown, interception, touchdown all the time.
I'm gonna go with my gut. I'm gonna say that '96 Patriots team.
Okay, we got 96 Pats for Mike.
I'm gonna go with the Ravens. That defense was cold. That was one of the
2000
best.
Ravens. John.
That was one of the best defenses I've ever seen play.
Somehow I think there was a very special day that happened somewhere up in Cleveland in '89, because I do feel that special teams also counts for points with defense, because they just smushed them all up together. But I'm going to go with the '89 Cleveland Browns.
Okay, so we got 96 Pats for Mike,
Mm-hmm.
89 Browns for Jamie, and the 2000 Ravens for John.
Please tell me you stumped the squad.
Unfortunately, I did not stump the squad. Somebody was right. Somebody almost changed their gut, stayed with their gut, so I successfully stumped everybody except for Jamie. It was the 1989 Browns. Unfortunately, and it's a very unfortunate day, but fortunately, I was not living for this day. It was against my Pittsburgh Steelers, but I was not living yet in 1989 to actually witness this. On this terrible day, the 1989 Browns scored a whopping 52 fantasy football points in the standard league. What happened in that game? The Browns recovered 5 fumbles. There were 6 fumbles total, but they recovered 5. They had 3 interceptions, 6 sacks. 2 of the fumbles were returned for touchdowns. 1 interception was returned for a touchdown, and they allowed only 53 yards for the entire game.
Holy
Jesus.
Final score? Is that up
The
there?
final score for that game was 51 Browns, Steelers 0.
Oh my God.
It's one of the worst days in Steelers Browns history.
And we
I'm
made
glad
you
you weren't
relive
alive.
it.
Oh, I didn't live it. Fortunately, I was not alive in 1989. So, yeah.
All right. Well, right now, Jamie has 0 going for win number 8. I'm done at -6, but Mike and Trey are at -4. So Jamie has to get it wrong, and they have to get it right. So Brett favorite,
Brett favorite.
has the most interceptions in NFL history.
Yes, he does.
How many does he have?
Oh,
324, 290, 333, or 366?
366.
Mike.
324.
366.
Grandpa J.
333 just comes off the tongue so nice, but you threw that one in there just to fuck with us. So 324 is my guess.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Well, I can't win because Jamie picked the same.
Today, I have successfully stumped Grandpa J and TreyDay. It is 366, which is embarrassing.
I remember for some reason I picked when you said 366, I pictured the all-time interceptions list in my head, and I'm like, that looks right in my head.
All right, so I
just have a tiebreaker.
Okay, I was gonna say, but you go ahead.
I already had a tiebreaker set. Okay, back to fantasy football and defenses. Let's do this again. Okay, so post the year 2000, since we already established this happened back in '89. Post the year 2000, what is the highest found defensive fantasy point performance one single game? Post year 2000, from 2000 until current day. What's the highest? How many points?
How many points? Okay.
Can I guess? Or you want me to go last?
Yeah, okay.
How many points in one game for defense? Gotcha.
Highest since post
highest.
2000.
Same thing like before, but this is post 2000. What is the highest amount?
45.
Number popped into my head again. We're gonna go with gut 27.
Post 2000. No, I definitely remember the Miami Dolphins having a game with at least 37 points. So I'm gonna go 37.
You're gonna go 37. Okay, so this game actually happened against John's Philadelphia Eagles. They were on the wrong side of this. It was the Seattle Seahawks. It was 2005, so it wasn't the Legion of Boom era. But today's winner, it would have been John because he was really close. The number is 46. So today's winner is Jamie with his 37. John was winning 1 point. So Jamie is this week's Stump the Squad winner.
Ocho, baby. Ocho.
He gets the Ocho, and I don't have to go Ocho. The Ocho. Grandpa the Ocho with the winner of episode 89. And I think that eliminates me at this point.
No.
I have 2 wins, and we have 11 shows left. Oh, yeah, no, I'm right.
You make it. You gotta go perfect the rest of the time.
I literally can't lose. So can you guys just not show up next week, and I'll just Well, congratulations, Grandpa Jay. He has 8 wins. TreyDay has 5, right, Mike?
Yeah, 5.
Yeah. So our updated leaderboard
and then
is
Mike has 3. I have 2. So that is the scoreboard at this point. Grandpa Jay continues his hot streak. You son of a bitch, you.
so close.
Man, I want 2 fantasy. I'm number 1 in my other fantasy league, so I get the bye week. So I just want that crown, man. That big crown.
Well, we'll decide that here in February in 2024. Next week, make sure you tune in. We got good old Idris coming back on the show for episode 90. He's going to come talk sports with us. He's always a great person to have on. Got to get Brandon back on the show. And also at the end of the year, we're going to have Tyvon Branch come on, back on, talk a little football back. So make sure you guys are tuning into everything because we're going to be here throughout the end of the year. And fellas, I was doing the math on this year. We did an episode every single week, or will do an episode every single week of 2023. We did not miss a beat. 52 episodes this year, fellas.
That's awesome.
Well done.
So
well done, boys.
Bring your Santa hats, bring your ugly sweaters, and we'll do a little contest here next week. Who has the ugliest sweater or best Christmas? Get up.
Doing this?
We're doing this. We're doing this. So, gentlemen, any final thoughts heading into the weekend?
Yeah, fuck Man U. Go Liverpool.
Let's go, Giants.
Yes, Philly has a tough road game against the Seahawks.
Actually, is there any surprise the Bucks are 6-7 and leading the NFC side?
No, we went over this last year. We literally had a whole topic of this last year that I will pull up for us next week that shows us talking about how the NFC South does not deserve to be in the playoffs, and it's again to deserve it, not deserve.
Here we are.
Oh, and one thing is the Eagles have not beat the Seahawks in 15 games.
Holy
really?
15 consecutive losses.
About due then.
I hope so.
Night.
You better hope that fantasy football record don't get broken.
Yeah.
46 really. Fantasy football points.
It can get broken as long as we win. Go ahead. We get 40.
Vikings Raiders, the old 3-0 game.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. We're looking forward to episode 90. Gonna be excited. Grandpa Jay and I are gonna be together. Can't wait for next week. Make sure you tune in. See you next week. Cinco Squad out.